Hello and welcome to a new pick a card reading. In today's reading, we are going to get you advice from Spirit. I think this is going to work best if you have a particular situation in mind, and we're going to try and get some advice on that situation. But if not, if you are just open to any kind of advice, then do not shy away from picking a group because I'm sure that it's still going to be helpful, okay? So I have prepared 3 groups. This is group number 1, group number 2, and group number 3. To accompany some oracle cards that I have already shuffled out, I have chosen some feathers today. This one is my newest addition to my little feather collection. Look at this. Pretty sure that is from a blue jay that was outside of my house. So gorgeous. This is group 1. Let me see if I can get you to focus closer. There we go. Group 1, that is your feather. And then group 2, this is your feather. Let's focus. There we go. Some light green blues in the tips. This is a peacock feather. That is group 2. And then group 3, another peacock feather from my little humble collection from when I used to live with peacocks. That is group 3. So again, we are trying to get you some advice on a particular situation or just advice in general for where you're at right now. Advice directly from Spirit on how to move through the point in life that you find yourself at right now. So I'm going to give you a moment to zone in or zone out, whichever you need, and then timestamps are in the description below, and I will meet you at your reading. Hi group 1, if you chose this beautiful blue jay feather, then this is your reading. Come on, focus. You can do it. I believe in you. There you go. Look at that. That is so gorgeous. Okay, we're going to set that right up here. And then first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these 2 oracle cards. So again, we are getting advice on a particular situation or just general advice that you need to hear right now. What are we looking at? Explore your ancestry. I live in truth. Okay. So in regards to the situation that you're dealing with or wherever you're finding yourself in life right now, the advice from Spirit is to take a look inward, to take a look at where have you been living out ancestral patterns. Explore your ancestry is not as literal as we think, but it can be. For some of us, this would have to do to get in touch with your lineage, meaning take a look at your roots, take a look at how you can become more comfortable with your roots. I think we live in a day and age where we have normalized growing away from your roots, and unfortunately, because there's a lot of stressors put on families, especially within the last few decades, where a lot of trauma unfolds in a way where it is necessary to grow away from your roots. However, as far away as you have grown from it, you are still connected to it, right? There is still a root that goes all the way back to your origin. So explore your ancestry, and I live in truth is asking you, especially because this looks like a giant eyeball, it's asking you to take a look at where there might be patterns within your genetics, but also within your psychology. So on multiple levels, our family has profound effects on us, back all the way back into the times that we cannot remember because we were too young, they were too traumatizing. There are oftentimes things that we cannot fully process or we're not meant to process at that age. And so we compartmentalize it and we put it away, right? But taking a look at family dynamics and the way our family operates and how that has affected us is very important in order to live authentically and to live in a state of awareness, right? You are not a being that was created in isolation. You are not a being that just suddenly popped up out of nowhere, right? So even if you have a strained relationship or absolutely no relationship to family, there are ways in which our genetic ties make us play out similar storylines. That would be epigenetics. Epigenetics has an effect on multiple generations, which means that there are ways in which trauma that previous generations have experienced imprints on your epigenetics, and exploring that. So even if you're not in the mood to directly get into contact with particular family members, really taking a look at, you know, what area geographically, where is my family from, what was imposed on them, what kind of trauma did they experience where they lived. You can really kind of zoom out without having to directly communicate if that's something that you don't feel comfortable with. But there is definitely a call, like Spirit is definitely advising you to really take a look. Specifically with this imagery right now, I'm looking at this snake, and it feels like if you are just looking at yourself in isolation and looking at your issues, or looking at patterns that you have established within your life, if you're looking at just that, you're looking only at the head of the snake. And Spirit is asking you to look at the entire body up until the tail, which, I mean, who knows how far that goes, right? But there's something here about really exploring how you are a product of lots and lots of influences that you might not even be aware of. And doing some kind of research around that could really shed some light on certain patterns that you have established, or certain draws that you feel, certain skills that you have. There could be something within that search that truly empowers you to kind of stand in a energy of taking control instead of enduring. That's kind of what's coming through. Very interesting. Okay, I am going to set these off to the side, and we are actually going to pull a Celtic cross. And I'm really kind of excited because I have been doing tarot readings online for quite a while, but I never did Celtic cross readings. Way in the beginning, when I started to do tarot readings for myself, I would do Celtic cross readings. I would use the Celtic cross spread every now and then, but very quickly in my journey I felt a little bit limited by it. But I haven't done it in so long, I thought this would actually be really interesting to see how this turns out in a pick a card. So let's get into it. For group 1, we are exploring a Celtic cross to get some advice on a particular situation, or just advice in general. What's going on? Okay, we have the Hierophant. And I just realized I'm probably going to have issues with space, but we'll see. the Ace of Cups. We have the Knight of Swords. Okay. So immediately I'm getting a storyline that actually is going very, I mean, of course it's going very well with the cards that we already have come out. I think exploring patterns within your ancestry is really going to help you figure out issues around commitment and around perhaps marriage, especially because we have the Hierophant here. It feels like you're dealing with a lot of confusion when it comes to truly committing yourself to something. Now, there is something that in the recent past was very fulfilling to you, and yet there is an issue here of committing to it. There is a fear of maybe there's better out there. And this Knight of Swords in the future position indicates, especially when you look at the positioning, look at, they are running straight towards each other. There's something that you are bound to find out, bound to understand about your hesitation around this commitment. Now this could also, it doesn't have to be around marriage. Yeah, you're fighting this. It doesn't have to be around marriage, but this could also have to do with the belief system that you have. So this could have to do with religion. So there could be some kind of religious trauma, but it doesn't have to be religion. It can really just be the whichever kind of belief system, whichever way you make sense of the world. That is something, I don't know why I just gasped like that. That is something that you seem to be struggling with at the time. It's like there's a pre-cut out shape there, and you're like, I don't know if I fit into that shape. What's at the root of this? That Four of Swords does feel like it connects again over here. It does. I most definitely don't have enough space. Maybe that's why I never did the Celtic cross. But we have the Four of Swords down here. This really kind of connects with something that is dormant. This connects with something that is dormant within you. And perhaps that's why you're being asked to explore your ancestry. This could actually have to do, and I kind of was picking up on that a little bit earlier, but this could have to do in terms of belief systems, practices, spiritual practices that your ancestry was a part of. And going back to geographically, like if you, in today's day and age, we deal with a lot of displacement when it comes to heritage. Displacement. People move a lot, but your ancestry links you to possibly another land, another culture, a different geography, and therefore different deities, different expressions of spiritual understanding of the world. But displacement, meaning whether it was the generation right before you were born or the generation before that, having to leave their place of origin may have caused some kind of spiritual displacement as well. Because when we move places, when we are displaced, we have to create these pockets of spiritual understanding that and cultural understanding that we hold on to. But in a lot of places, especially in Western society expects you to adapt to wherever you are at now. So families have to make really important decisions on what do we preserve when it comes to our culture or our spiritual beliefs, and what do we have to release in order to be accepted where we are at now. So you might actually be feeling a lot of displacement within yourself. And this is telling me that if you really spend some time even again, if I said this earlier about not having to directly communicate with your ancestors or anything like that, like your living ones, through meditation, I think you're able to uncover a lot of innate calling. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, look at that. You are being drawn. You really want to find... This may have to do, again, because we have the Hierophant, this may have to do with the fact that you are thinking about a very, why did I hear the word severe? You might be considering a very serious commitment, so marriage. And so you might be thinking about, this is going to be super random, but somebody out there is considering marriage with someone and considering taking on someone else's faith. And that is making you think about how connected am I to my faith or the faith that comes from my family. Let's take a look at outside influences. Yeah, see, there's some kind of offer that's being made to you of like, here, consider this. And you're trying to... It's interesting because I feel like perhaps this wasn't so much an issue previously, but now that something is being offered to you, it's the idea of like, oh, if something's being offered to me, then what am I giving up? And that suddenly starts this research of like, wait, what am I giving up? What even is part of who I am? What is your hopes and fears in this situation? You definitely want to release a lot of your roots, for sure. Like there's the trauma and the toxicity that you don't want to bring into any kind of new family that you create or any kind of new system that you dedicate yourself to. You want new, you want healthy. That is your hope, and that is why. That is driving this reflection. Show me the outcome for this situation. Okay, I like this. This is indicating that there will be a positive merging. So I think this situation that you're facing is causing you to recognize, what am I contributing when I merge with someone? And so it kind of causes you, it kind of brings up some fears of, hold up, now I'm realizing how much I would be giving up. But ultimately, because you have this desire to grow in a different direction than from where you came, you are really excited about this commitment, and you are recognizing this reflection is going to be very important, because this is actually helping you recognize that you can take the positive aspects from your lineage and merge them with the positive aspects of someone else's lineage. Having a hard time talking. And together you can just kind of take the best of both worlds and create something really powerful and beautiful and new. This is so random. This is coming through. I have to throw this out there. I do see that for some of you, this can have to do with actual health issues. You might be looking at family diseases, and you might actually be trying to conceive, and you're worried about diseases within the family. I do see that you're doing a lot of research, and at some point it gets to a point where it's like you can't control what you can't control, so you just have to trust that things are going to work out, and whatever comes up, you deal with it. But I do see that there's a lot of feeling of overwhelm that is really keeping you from committing to something. It is really keeping you from diving headfirst into this new. So a lot of the imagery that I'm getting is creating a hybrid plant of some sort, especially with this Ace of Wands. It's like the idea of, here's, you know, when they come up with all those crazy like new fruits, or like the grapes that taste like cotton candy, like new hybrid plants, that's what I'm getting. But in order to be able to create a new hybrid, you want to know what is the actual product that I'm mixing with something else, right? And so there is a strong moment of reflection and fear on your part. But ultimately, I do see you committing to this. There's something that you're afraid of committing because you're unsure. And so the advice from Spirit is, if you are unsure, then do your research. Connect with your ancestry as much as you can, whether that is in real life, whether that is through medical testing, whether that is through doing research, or whether that is through spiritual meditation. Connect with yourself and your lineage, your heritage, and get clear on what is a part of me that I am contributing. But then you also have to recognize that there's only so much that you can control, because you are talking about merging with someone else, right? And I understand there's a lot of fear around that, but ultimately I do see celebration and merging here. So I do see you committing to this, even though you are confused and possibly a little bit scared about it. I see you committing to this after you have done some research and really come to kind of like a calmer state of, okay, I know who I am, and now I'm ready to merge. Whichever way this is, whether that is in love, whether this is physically, meaning having, starting a family with someone, whether this is coming together in marriage, or whether this is coming together in a sense of you and your spiritual path and your spiritual gifts, because that I could also see very, very strongly come through in terms of, we had the Hierophant. Meditation can really get you to a point to connect with your ancestry, and your ancestry will be so happy to be like, yay, you're here, we can finally work together. And then the outside influence would be receiving intuitive hits, and it really kind of puts you on a new path where you and your spirit team are working together. So this is truly about commitment, but what it is that you're committing to, you know that better than I do, okay? And that's going to be different for different people. Let's get some dice on this. We have the second house. Yeah, this is absolutely about merging with someone. We have Libra, and we have the Sun. Absolutely, because the Sun is about bringing attention to you, bringing attention to who am I? And then Libra is about bringing harmony to that, bringing balance to that. Libra is ruled by Venus. So clearly understanding what is it that I bring to this relationship, whether it is a physical relationship, whether it is a spiritual relationship, doesn't really matter. But the second house is about possessions and values, the things that you bring to this. The confusion that you're dealing with is because you are having a hard time recognizing, what is it that I bring to this situation? What is it that I am able to provide in this situation? And what's going to help you is to really explore yourself, take some moment for reflection, meditation, if necessary, medical testing or DNA testing, if that's something that I'm not saying you have to, but if that's something that you feel like it's giving you anxiety and knowing would help, especially because there could be some kind of fear around passing down a certain illness, or a marker for a certain illness. So if that's something that you really fear and you've avoided it for a long time, then that might be something where you really want to get testing, just so you know. And then at least you know, right? And going back to this from a spiritual lens, the advice is really to not shy away from this confusion, to really take a look at why am I feeling so hesitant around this commitment, because that's actually something that is kind of like a catalyst to help you get to confidently commit to whatever it is you're considering. That is beautiful. We're going to get you one last oracle card, and this one we're going to read from the booklet. I don't want to draw these out too long. Get one card for group 1. There we go, the perfect key. I swear, I love this deck, but this card is like the #1 card to come out for my collective, which I love because it's a beautiful card. The perfect key, happiness, encouragement, unlock feelings. Let's show you close up. There we go. It says, this card shows a woman holding a key in one hand and a cage with a heart in the other. There is a bird sitting on the woman's shoulder, encouraging her to try different keys with his mouth. Yet the woman has already found the perfect fitting key. She can open the cage and open her heart. Sometimes life is only a search for the right key. There are so many things that are hard for us to approach. We can have trouble accessing our own feelings. Thanks to friends and family, there are people who can help us find the lost keys to our personal happiness. The lost key is the knowledge that we need for our personal happiness, right? That key is the knowledge and the understanding and the confidence of, I know who I am, I know what I'm contributing to this, whether it is in terms of psychological patterns or whether it is in terms of medical patterns within your DNA, right? So just like the booklet says, your friends and your family, meaning the place that you come from, taking that into account into who you are. You did not just materialize out of nothing. You are a product of deep conditioning. You are a product of your DNA. You are a product of your ancestry. And so taking that into account really helps you navigate which key, meaning the knowledge, that can unlock your heart so that you are able to commit, so that you are able to open up and give your heart to something or someone. Okay? So remember that you have the key, because it's really about you finding out something about yourself, and whether that happens through some kind of testing, through some kind of research, or through spiritual meditation and really connecting with yourself so that you have a better understanding of who am I and why am I who I am. And then you're able to show up in a way that's a lot more confident when it comes to committing yourself to a process or a merging of some sort. This also can have to do with, understanding who you are in terms of like a brand. I know that sounds kind of off, but I just had to add that in the last second. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope that this was helpful or interesting. Let me know how it applies. Let me know how it made you feel. And I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading if you chose this lovely... I don't even know what that pattern would be called. Is this like marbled? Not really. Speckled? Speckled sounds cute. This lovely speckled feather. I'm going to set this right up here, and we're going to take a look at the oracle cards that came out for you for Group 2. What advice do you need at this time? Ooh. Oh no, not us being called out. What is going on? What are we dealing with? So we have, on the one hand, become more objective. On the other hand, I achieve with integrity. Okay. The first hit that I'm getting here is, where are you being too hard on yourself? Where are you being too hard on yourself, and therefore being too hard on others as well? Become more objective is asking you to take a step back. I achieve with integrity doesn't necessarily mean that you are currently acting without integrity. This is just a reminder that you are more powerful the more that you embrace your own integrity. A lot of times we dismiss our own integrity for the benefit of others, not just out of selfish reasons. So especially because there is a group of people here, this is giving me this idea of, and I'm noticing right now that everyone's eyes are closed in both of these cards. But this is giving me this feeling of, if you operate from a place of integrity, everybody wins. If you show up authentically, everybody wins. And a lot of times when we are not objective enough, there are things about ourselves that we may see as faults. There are things about ourselves that we see as burdens that others would never see that way. They would never have an issue with those aspects of you. And so you might actually be holding yourself back. You might be holding yourself back by not showing up fully authentically. I achieve with integrity. Become more objective. This is also asking you to bring some awareness to any kind of issues that you have around confidence. Where are you lacking confidence and why? And can you take a look at that with a more objective lens? If you were not judging yourself, if you were examining your best friend, would you use the same language that you do when you're examining yourself? No, you wouldn't. You would be so much nicer. Become more objective. Become more objective as she is like standing over this crescent moon. And then here we have the sun. It's also asking us to implement more balance between our ego and our emotions. And perhaps your emotions have been kind of guiding you. And that's not to say that that's a wrong, that is not to say that that is wrong. But perhaps you have experienced a time of letting your emotions overpower your ego at times, to a point where it has kept you from acting. It has kept you from making proactive steps towards something that would actually be very beneficial to you and others as well. And that has probably something to do with a certain anxiety around being perceived. This is asking you to implement more grounding as well. Okay, I'm going to set these off to the side. We're going to keep them in mind as we start pulling cards. I am pulling a Celtic cross today. And that is actually something that I have not done in my professional online readings. I used to do Celtic crosses way in the beginning when I started reading cards for myself, and then at some point I found them too limiting. But for some reason, Spirit has been saying, you know what? Play a little. And so here we are. We're going to do a Celtic cross to get you some advice on a specific situation. What's going on? Okay, we have the Page of Swords. I can already tell you though that my setup is not made for a Celtic cross, so it's going to look a little messy, but just follow my voice. That's all you need. You don't need to be worried about the cards. What is it that you are trying to figure out? Some of you are too concerned about what other people think. Look at that. You know what I just heard? Only God can judge me. And I use the word God very liberally. So only the divine can judge you, which even that, the divine does not judge you. But just the idea of that saying is that I think that's something that you're growing towards. There's something around judgment here for sure, but I think you preemptively judge yourself, and that probably has to do with some kind of a father figure or a boss or someone who is just very focused on outcomes, very focused on what do you have to show for yourself. And that perhaps has left you feeling a little bit insecure because you feel like, well, I actually don't have that much to show for myself. But you are learning to grow into a different system of weighing what you have to show for yourself. What's the blockage here? We have the Hermit card, yeah. Yeah, you are in the midst of establishing your own integrity, your own idea of what it means to show up authentically. Become more objective. You know what? You possibly have the voice of someone else in your mind. You have someone else's voice in your mind, and it's very like a very deep conditioning where it's like that voice is just always there, whether the person is still around or not. But there is some kind of, and it doesn't even have to be another person. It could be an idealized version of yourself. It could be an idealized version of yourself, idealized to the extent where it's not a realistic person. Like, it's not like, yeah, if you were born, especially if you were born with infinite resources, you could be that kind of person. But you are a person that is experiencing very real life circumstances, right? And so there are ideals that we have, but then there are also ways in which we have to live, and we kind of have to make room for those ideals to shift. Very interesting. In any case, you're very, very hard on yourself. I can see that. We have the Queen of Cups. Yep. It's interesting because you use both. You use your mental facilities and you use your emotional facilities to an intense degree. I would want to see you act more. And that's what I was talking about, the sun and your solar plexus energy. I want to see you act more. And I want to see more passion, because right now there's a lot of pressure and a lot of analysis and a lot of weighing and a lot of like hesitation. Yeah, see? Oh. And I say all because the Page of Cups is at the bottom, like at the root of it all is like, it's almost like this childlike desire, and the Queen of Cups is the overwhelming worry that is pushing this childlike desire downwards, and it's like, no, 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 you can't, like this wants to live. This wants to live, but you kind of dissect it. You dissect it into oblivion. Let's get some more. What is your energy in this? We have the Ace of Cups. What is the external energy on this situation? We have the Knight of Swords. You want to. You want to, but you hesitate. You pull yourself back. Let me get one last card for the outcome here. Okay. Okay. I'm not mad about it. So this situation that you are getting advice on, you are needing to kind of, it's necessary for you to take a step back emotionally and to go within. Well, actually, you know what, I'm feeling torn on that, because I think that is part of the problem, is that you do a lot of heavy lifting within, and you do a lot of self-judgment, and there's some kind of situation that you are trying to gain some clarity on, and I think you have internalized it too much. You need to get actually out. You need to get out. You need to either physically get away from the issue, emotionally get away from the issue. You need to bring in some other experiences, and you might even need to bring in some outside counsel, meaning you might need to ask for support. You might need to ask for advice. You might need to seek out professional advice, especially with this Justice card. That could be seeking counsel in terms of if you are having some kind of issues around finances, you might want to see if you can get advice from a lawyer. This would also be getting advice from a court in some regard, or some kind of government system would even be able to, some kind of, there's something where we need to, right, we have become more objective. And how do we become more objective? We don't become more objective by just seeking inward more. We become more objective by taking a step back and seeking outward. And so that is this Justice card. Justice is blind, right? Justice is objective. We have the scales, and then justice asks for action, which is why we have the sword. It's the sword and the scale. You need to get out of your emotional body, and you need to bring more attention towards what other people think. There's some kind of, also with this Knight of Swords, there's some kind of external information that you need to seek out, and that is either information, opinions, perspectives, and that is going to help you bring together your emotions in a way that you can then move forward. Because the thing is that you want to make a decision on something, but you're struggling because your emotions are weighing you down, and you keep seeking within yourself, because deep within you, there is an energy that is like, oh, I would love to just like make a decision on this and be kind of lighthearted. But overall, because of your past, or because of the expectations that you have put upon yourself, or that have been put on you, you're struggling to make this emotional decision. And so what we need to do is get you some outside support that can put things into perspective for you. And I know that's kind of what we're doing right now already, right? We would hope that we would get there, but this spread is telling me that there's specifically within your surroundings people that will have a certain perspective or a certain knowledge that is going to benefit you, and that is necessary for you to collect, right? So the Ace of Cups here and the Page of Cups here is telling me that you are very much attached to your intuition, but there's an issue around trust, and there's an issue around I'm trying to get a word, self-sufficiency. So you are like hyper self-sufficient and you don't want to bother anyone with your emotions, it feels like. But there's something where it's like you're just not making any headway. You might be going back and forth between a decision. You're going back and forth and you're just not making any progress with this. You need an external mind to help you out with this, because on one hand you are hoping to have someone light a fire under your ass, to be quite honest. With this Knight of Wands, that is your hope. You want someone to light a fire under, you want someone to be able to tell you, go in this direction, okay? But that's the thing. Nobody else should tell you which direction to go. You are supposed to seek outside counsel so that you get a more complete image of the entire situation, but it is still based on your decision. Once you get that outside information, you are meant to integrate that information with your intuition and your emotions, which is why we have the Knight of Cups, right? The cups are very important for you. They are your strength, but they are also what is holding you back in making this decision. Notice we had the Page of Swords here. You need someone else to be like, no, you need to think of this, you need to think of that. And you really want someone to be able to do that for you, but you kind of want someone to get in the driver's seat for you, and that's not going to happen. But what's going to happen is that, let me try and build that metaphor actually. So this is kind of like, you are trying to figure out which route to take in a situation, but you are in an unfamiliar landscape. So you don't have a map. You have a strong sense of direction and you know where you're trying to go, and you're like, I could figure it out if I tried. And you're like sitting at a gas station trying to figure out like, I don't know, I can probably figure it out. I used to drive this route, like I think I know where I'm at, and you're spending all this time just sitting in the car, not making a decision. Should I try it? And you're not moving. Now, if you were to just get out of the car, right? Take a little distance, get out of the car, go inside the gas station, ask for directions, buy a map, right? Then you know for sure, all right, I know where I'm headed. I know maps are so outdated, whatever. Let's say your phone's not working, okay? Then you know where you're headed. You get back in the car and now you have a better understanding of where you're at because you asked for directions. You have a better understanding which direction you're going. And now as you're driving and you have confirmation of like, you know what, that is the correct direction. The guy at the gas station told me so. And as I'm driving, I'm recognizing things. I'm recognizing, oh yeah, see, that's where I have to take my turn. I knew it. But it's better to say, ooh, I knew it, and have asked someone than to drive and just be very kind of insecure about it the whole time, right? But with this Knight of Wands, you have the desire to, can't somebody just drive for me? I don't want to drive. But you have all this emotional energy that has to be transported, that has to be transmuted. So you need to kind of go through this process so that you feel really confident after all in the decisions that you make. Okay? I feel pretty strongly about that, to be honest. Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about that. Let me see if I can make this work in any other kind of application. This could have to do with some people in terms of the decision that you have to make. This could have to do with trying to decide a life path. So in terms of becoming more objective, achieve with integrity, this is about coming to a decision when it's about your life path. So the easiest way for me to kind of make sense of that, but it's not going to apply to everyone in that specific regard, is let's say this Page of Swords is about choosing your major in college, and you're like, I really have a passion for this thing, or I really have an emotional attachment for this certain art form, but that doesn't make any sense. And my parents always told me I need to choose, like if I'm gonna go to college, it's expensive. I need to make wise choices. I can't be going to college for art. Like that's just not feasible. And so you kind of go in circles and circles and circles. And so this outside information might look like seeking counsel, as in like specifically a college counselor can help you understand how you can combine an art degree with a degree that is on paper, because all degrees are, let's not talk about that. But on paper, it might satisfy more of that fear of like, I have to have something to show for at the end of it. And so this way you're not neglecting the desire that you have, that emotional attachment that you have to pursue something that you're emotionally involved in, but you get to find a way to do it where you get to have your cake and eat it too. And so that process is necessary, and that's not going to come from within. That is definitely, this Justice card and the Knight of Swords definitely indicates that it is necessary, along with they become more objective, it is necessary for you to receive outside information in order for you to then decide with integrity the path that you want to go on. We have the second house, we have Cancer, and we have Uranus. So the second house is the house of values, and it is the house of possessions. I think values works quite nicely here because there is this strong emotional attachment to this decision that you have to make, or this this choice that you have to make, or the situation that you are trying to gain control over. There's this strong emotional attachment, but there is this undercurrent of, but I have to do something that makes sense. Like it has to, like there's emotional desire that is highly pressurized by logic, which is making me think of water pressure in general, right? For some reason, I'm seeing like how there's certain faucets where you turn up the water pressure and it just kind of puts air into the spout so that the water that comes out looks like really white and it's all like fluffy. I don't know if this makes sense at all, but there's kind of like a difference. When there are certain faucets that you get that increase the water pressure by putting more air into like the water that comes out, but the water then looks very cloudy, it looks all white, versus having a single stream of water which looks really clear. And so the difference between the clear and the white water is that the white water seems like you can't really make sense of it, right? So there's something about you feeling confused and conflicted because you are pressurizing your emotions. Anyways, that was the second house, the house of values. And then Cancer, again, you have a strong intuitive ability, first of all, but also there's a strong intuitive message that you're picking up, and you cannot ignore that, right? But you also cannot steep in it. You're going to have to get some outside input in order for you to feel like, okay, I can make sense of this now. Then we have Uranus here, and this is really going to inflict some type of change, and I think ultimately for the better, a change where you can actively pursue what it is that you are emotionally invested in, but you know the full picture. Okay, sorry about the sirens in the background. All right, we're going to get one last oracle card. This is going to, we're going to read this one from the booklet. But overall, the advice that Spirit has for you through this reading is that I think it is necessary for you to open up to outside counsel, to outside research, to outside information to make this a little bit lighter on you. Because right now, this feels like an emotional steam cooker, and you need to let off some of that steam so that you can make a decision or a move in the direction that you really care about. And you're going to do that. Again, that I achieve with integrity. And again, we have multiple people here, right? Getting outside perspectives. There's something about achieving with integrity, meaning you take in outside perspectives, but you don't let them water down your desires. You help, you combine them. It's not so much about ignoring what your mind or your heart is telling you. But I think the problem is that your heart is telling you one thing and your mind has been conditioned by someone or something in the past. And so getting kind of like a breath of fresh air from someone else's mind kind of helps you clear that out so that you can make decisions moving forward that are empowered and that that you are able to move with confidence. Going back to solar plexus energy with this yellow shrub and the sun here. Let's get one last oracle card for group 2. Ooh. We have day and night. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? That's exactly. You see the moon and the sun? Just like we had here, the moon and the sun, day and night. This is about balance and bringing balance and into your perception. Let's read it. That is a number 1. Uncertainty, fear, worries, decisions to be made. Follow your instincts. Absolutely. Okay. Let's focus. There we go. And it says, the girl we see on this card is holding the sun in her hands while the moon is at her back. She looks uncertain, as if she has a question in mind but does not know the answer. What is she thinking about? Is she afraid of the answer or the inward process to find it? Many of us struggle with making decisions, but where there is shadow, there is also light. After a dark night, there is always the light of the morning sun, warming the path we have chosen. This card reminds us that we already hold all the answers in our hands. We should trust our inner judgment, and we know we will be able to handle any situation. Now, I love that they confirm that, because yes, I absolutely believe that. However, I think it's very important to point out that you do require some kind of outside counsel, because you on your own have been trying to crack this, and it's driving you, you're kind of running in circles. So we need to bring in some fresh air, which is going to come externally, but it ultimately, that is just fresh air. We're just opening the windows, bringing in some fresh air. But ultimately, yes, the decision is still in your hands. It is still on you. Like I said, nobody's going to come into the car and drive you wherever you need to go. It is still going to be you that takes the action in whichever direction you choose. And like I said early in the beginning with this Justice card, is that I think your approach is changing to how you weigh certain decisions. And it is changing because somebody is giving you new perspectives with this card and with this card. Because you are getting new outside perspectives, you're allowing them in, that empowers you to feel more confident in the decisions that you're making. Okay? Beautiful. I'm going to leave it there. And I hope that it resonates. I hope that it was helpful. And I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 3. This is your reading. If you chose this lovely peacock feather with incredibly deep blue tones at the tips. And look at these super fluffy feathers at the base. Feathers. What are they? Fibers? Are they fibers? Who knows? Not me. All right, let's take a look. What do we got here? Experience rebirth, and I give offerings that are genuine. Ooh. Okay, so your advice from Spirit has a lot to do with showing up more authentically. And I will tell you, this has been a theme throughout the other readings as well. But I think this has a lot to do with trust in your case. Trust and authenticity. And trusting that. So the idea of rebirth and birth in general, especially when you think of this one is the most cliche one, right? The caterpillar to a butterfly. The moment that the butterfly does actually give in, or the caterpillar gives into transformation and rebirth, it becomes goo. It builds this cocoon to protect itself because that is when it is at its most vulnerable state. So the stage at which you are experiencing rebirth can be extremely disorienting, extremely concerning, and it can be very confusing. I do think it's interesting how the imagery here, there's this child that is very much leaning towards this imagery, which there's this female body like with a clear direction, almost like being called towards a certain direction. But I give offerings that are genuine has a lot to do with becoming very clear on your heart space. And so there is a part of you that desires to be a lot more authentic and possibly a lot more vulnerable when it comes to how you show up, especially I'm feeling in relationships. You might not have been in your most recent relationships, whether those are friendships, family, or romantic, you might not have been fully genuine. You might have been acting out certain patterns. You might have been showing up in a way that kept you safe. There's something here about truly leaning into your vulnerability. So the advice is to be more vulnerable and to allow yourself. The thing is that, especially when it comes to vulnerability, a lot of times we have a hard time being more vulnerable because of the stories we tell ourselves. The stories as in our memories, stories as in our fears, the things we tell ourselves that kind of create a narrative of who we are and who we believe we are. And there's something here about breaking up with some of those narratives, breaking away from some of those stories in order to free yourself to show up more authentically. So the advice from Spirit is the advice from Spirit is to let go, because the process of letting go is what's going to get you to a place to give offerings that are more genuine, that are more aligned. And I'm actually hearing you get what you give. What is that song? Wake up, kids, we got the dreamer's disease. You only get what you give. I don't know if that's what it's titled, but you either know it or you don't. But that's what's coming through, especially with these circles are giving me like sonar. There's something about frequency here, and you get what you give. And if you are currently in a state where you feel like you're not getting what you deserve, then it's not so much a sign of you not deserving the thing that you actually want. It's more so a sign of you not acting in alignment with what you deserve. And that can be rough. That's a harsh statement right there, but that is going to require of you to let go of some things. I do feel like this may have to do with relationships specifically, but this can also apply to Experiencing rebirth, one way that I can see this applying is the idea of, I give offerings that are genuine. This could have to do with choosing a new career path that is more aligned with your natural abilities versus forced skill or forced learnings. And experiencing rebirth can have to do with trying to break away from structures that create this false sense of safety. So I could see it applying in that way, but I think for a lot of you, this is going to have to do with relationships. But let's see. So we are pulling a Celtic cross today, and as I have told the other groups, that's actually kind of interesting because I have not done Celtic crosses in my professional readings. I used to do them way back in the day when I started reading cards, and then I kind of stopped because I started doing my own spreads. But for some reason, that idea has been in my head, so I've been wanting to experiment with it just to see what comes out. So that's what we're doing. Group 3, let's get you some advice for whichever situation is on your mind right now. What's going on for group 3? Okay, we have the 7 of Wands. I still have that song stuck in my head. We have the Fool. And I will tell you right now that I actually don't have enough room on the table for the Celtic cross, so it looks kind of messy, but bear with me, follow my voice. What about the future? And what is the blockage here? So it seems with the Fool in the past, it seems that you've already initiated this process of rebirth, right? You've already given yourself to it. You've already leaped, at least in one area of your life, or at least in some capacity. I think that it was either mentally or emotionally, one of the two. You were, let me actually see what the blockage is here, because then I'll know. Interesting. That actually did not answer the question, but either mentally or emotionally, you were on board. You were ready for this rebirth. You were ready for this new chapter. And yet you're finding it very difficult. I think you were expecting the new direction to be easier. And you are coming up, I'll just say it kind of feels like you're coming up empty-handed, and it feels like things are not fair because you're like, wait, I followed my intuition and I did what I was supposed to do. I am giving myself up to this path. And yet nothing is being handed to me, and it's feeling a little disappointing. We have the Moon. This is interesting. Which one? Okay, it's this one. Is following me around like a little dog. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, the other card, and I just put it at the bottom of the deck because that's not the one that wanted out, but the other card is the 10 of Wands, and this makes sense to me. Ooh, okay. All right, I get your frustration. First of all, I can feel it, and I understand it. You started a journey to dedicate yourself towards something, and you knew it wasn't going to be easy. You knew that it was going to come with hurdles. However, you're on this path and you're feeling really frustrated, and you're getting to a point where you are wondering, is this even worth it anymore? And ultimately, with this 10 of Pentacles at the root, you have this deep desire to build. You have this deep desire. You have to understand this, that you have to ground, you have to grow downwards, which is why we have the Hermit here. You have to grow down before you can grow up. And I feel there is this, there's a lot of impatience here, I think. And I think it has to do with the fact that you feel like things are not coming fast enough, things are not coming quick enough, and you feel like you're being breadcrumbed. You are waiting for riches that are already present. You are waiting for riches that are already present. I know how frustrating that is, trust me. King of Swords, yeah, you're pissed. Let's see, what's the external energy? Oh, you are so... Okay. Do not give in to jealousy. Please, do not give in to comparison. Do not give in to I think you look at other people and you see like a shine, you see like a glimmer, and it's like, why don't I get this? And I can tell you other people look at you and they see the same shine, they see the same glimmer. Tell me about hopes and fears here. You're so frustrated, I can feel it. Yeah, you just want to know that you're going to make it. You just want to know. You just want, this is so frustrating. I can sense it. You're so frustrated. You just want to know it's worth it. Tell me outcome here, or what you can tell me for the outcome here. Whoop. That Empress was staring at me. I have to take her. But then there's also this Eight of Cups, and I think that's important, so I will take it. Okay. Yeah, Two of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Let me just point that out right quick. Here's the thing. You have such high expectations, and I think it took you a lot to commit to this leap of faith, whatever it was in the past where you were like, okay, I'm going to try this. Like, okay, I think it took a lot of you to really commit to this rebirth. And now that you're in it, you're like, I better get rewarded. I'm sorry, but it's impatience. It's impatience. You are building something, and you're building it from the ground up. And you are building it extremely intuitively. And it is hard work. It is not, nothing is being handed to you. It is hard work, and it is all you. It is a labor of love, but you are being hypercritical of proof. You want proof. And then you look outside of yourself. You look at what you've created, and it's like you planted a seed, right? With this Fool card, you were like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna plant this seed. And then the second because when you have the seed, you have it in your hand, and you're like, okay, I know I have a seed. When you plant the seed, you put it underground and you can't see it anymore. You have to trust that it's doing whatever it needs to do, that it's germinating, and that seed is going to grow downwards first. With that Hermit card and this Ten of Pentacles, that seed has to grow down first and get its nutrients from the soil before it can grow upwards. But you are sitting where you have planted that seed, and you're staring at it, and you're like, nothing is coming up. Nothing is coming up. And then you're looking around the garden, and you're taking a look at where other people planted stuff, and it's growing, and you're like, why is theirs growing? Why is mine not growing? Like, they already have their fruit. I haven't even gotten a little leaf. What the heck? It's not helpful. It's not helpful. However, I also see that there is a potential here to get outside support, and you are refusing it. I give offerings that are genuine. also has to do with accepting offers that are genuine. We have this Six of Pentacles here, we have this Nine of Pentacles here. I feel like there are people or sources around you that want to give you some form of support, and you are not open to it. You really want to prove yourself, and you're going to, but there is some kind of emotional attachment, and this is connecting, the Eight of Cups is connecting to that rebirth, experience rebirth, because there's some kind of emotional attachment to some old value system or some, there's something that you have to leave behind in order for you to fully follow this path that is very intuitively guided. And I think that has a lot to do, I think what you mostly need to leave behind is, again, like we spoke in the beginning, is the narratives and expectations. Narratives and expectations. You are creating something. Now I want to try and take it back to, because I did feel that for a lot of you, this would have to do with relationships, but I am also seeing like somebody is creating a business here. Somebody is creating some kind of self-sufficiency for themselves, and you're being very impatient about it. And I'm here to tell you, keep going. Now, in terms of relationships, I think you recently decided to do things a little bit differently. There perhaps even was a new relationship that you entered, or a new friendship that you entered, and then you found that it's actually kind of hard work, that nobody is handing you things, that things aren't very easy. And what is necessary here is to take a look inward and take a look at your expectations, and your expectations in direct correlation to your ability to be vulnerable, because you're expecting something to grow out of very little. I'm getting again the imagery of wanting this fruit, right? If this Ten of Pentacles, if we translate that to fruit, it's like, this is the fruit that I'm expecting, this is what I want. And yet you're not giving the sun, you're giving the moon, which means like emotionally there, it just feels like there's a lot of expectation, but perhaps not a lot of support. I give offerings that are genuine talks about supporting this connection more, if it is indeed a connection, but you are being hyper analytical. With this King of Swords, you're being hypercritical of this relationship or this friendship, versus the other person seems honestly quite established and seems kind of self-sufficient, and perhaps that self-sufficiency is what makes you feel insecure and you feel like they're not giving enough, when perhaps the issue is that in the past you were more used to partners that were more reliant on you, or perhaps partners that were even dependent on you. This person is not dependent on you, and I think it's driving you a little mad. With this King of Pentacles, you want to serve, you want to be the provider in some way. That doesn't necessarily have to be financially, but that has a little bit to do with control. You feel like if this person doesn't truly depend on you, then how am I supposed to control them, right? So that can be emotional dependency, that can be a mental or financial dependency. Now, the Empress in the outcome, along with the Eight of Cups, is indicating that when it comes to this, you don't have to hold control over them. What you have to do is give offerings that are genuine, to be nurturing with this seed, be nurturing with this relationship, and that will allow it to flourish. And again, through that, you have to let go of some of the old expectations that you have, some of the old narratives that you tell yourself, because again, in the past, you are deviating from an old narrative. And that is really good, but it's really challenging for you. And it's showing you a lot where subconsciously you have created certain patterns for yourself. And remember, we had the Seven of Wands here in the heart of the matter, and that's because you are overcoming through experience. You are overcoming a new set of challenges that you had not faced before. So yes, this is not easy. But it's absolutely worth it, because look at, once you embrace this for what it is and embrace the fact that you don't need this person to depend on you, that you will attract them. Instead of pulling them, you attract them. And that's very different, right? Pulling is such like a forceful pull of energy. Attraction is they come from their own volition. They come because they desire to attach themselves to you in some way. Now again, whether this is relationships or business, this is still about building yourself, trusting yourself to be attractive, to attract in the energies that you're calling in. But you are being hypercritical of yourself, and you're being hypercritical of the proof of the results, the bottom line, right? There's something where you're like, this isn't enough, it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. Well, if what you're receiving is not enough, you need to take a look at what you're giving. Oof, ouch. Let's roll some dice. All right, we have the 9th house, we have the North Node, and we have Leo. Excuse me. So the 9th house is the house of higher learning and commitment. It is also the house of travel, and it is the house of expansion through experience. This is new territory for you. This is new, which is why we started off with the Fool card, right? But this is unlearned. This is unlearned experience, meaning that you don't have anything to pull from in order to make it through this, which means that you have to pay close attention. However, with the North Node and this Leo energy, it is about making sensible decisions in the moment. This is very much giving me the idea of, Leo is a very strong leadership energy. North Node just as well. All of these energies are very strong leadership energies. However, a leader, whether in theory or literally with a business, a great leader knows when to act and knows when to wait, knows when to give and knows when to receive. There is balance required in this. Your advice is to temper your impatience and your judgment, and to employ more trust in your abilities to attract and build. Because right now you are struggling with trust. You are quite possibly, especially when it comes to relationships, you're actually quite possibly putting up with breadcrumbs, right? So the idea of like, I feel like all I'm getting is breadcrumbs, it's kind of like, is that what you're accepting? Because if that's what you're accepting, and also, is that what you're giving? There's a strong need to take a look at, what is it that I'm expecting? What am I receiving? And what am I giving? And is there a correlation between those three variables? Because I think that subconsciously there is some kind of pattern that you're playing out where it's like you're holding back. You have a lot to give, but you're actually holding back. And it comes from some kind of fear that if I give more, it will just be taken from me. You are a creator with this Empress. You are an incredibly powerful creatrix just came up, but your gender doesn't matter. but you draw from within with this Hermit card and the Ten of Pentacles being at the base of this reading. You are the riches that you seek, right? But you do have to give a little to get a lot. That's what I'm getting here. You have to give a little to get a lot. I give offerings that are genuine. I think that in the past, and that's going back to the narratives that you are holding on to in the past, it may have happened that people have taken advantage of you, right? That people have taken whatever you had to give. And so then you felt like, I have to be really defensive, especially with that Seven of Wands. I have to be really defensive about what I have. I have to hold on and be very protective about what I have. So I only give a little, but then you also only get a little. And then in comes a person that is willing to give, but they also don't need yours. They don't depend on you. They don't need yours. They're like, I got my own, but I'm willing to share. I'm willing to exchange energies. And you're just very like, what are you trying to take away from me? So there are some narratives that you need to leave behind. And it's going to bring in some very expansive experiences when it comes to how you show up in relationships or within your own business, because I really feel strongly that this is those two arenas, creating your own business or relationships. Both of those I think apply very strongly here. Now I'm going to pull one last oracle card, and then we are going to read that one from the booklet. For group 3, one last oracle card. Any last advice for group 3? Ooh. We have a long way home, and I'm actually not quite sure. I feel like this one wanted out as well, so I will take both of them. Don't tell the others. So we have Bloom and a long way home. We'll read both of them. Let's read Bloom first. That is number 5. Self-confidence, femininity, individual fulfillment. A woman gazes into your eyes with pride and self-confidence. She knows what she wants, and this certainty blooms out of her being like a bountiful garden. Her hair is thick like the branches of trees, reaching out with controlled abandonment. The power of nature surrounds her, flowing both into her and out from her. That's exactly it. Flowing into her and out. It doesn't just go one way, and you can't just say, I'll have it go only one way until you prove to me what comes in, and then I'll give out, you know? Okay, anyways. The power of nature surrounds her, flowing both into her and out from her. What would it be like to feel this connected and confident? What could you accomplish? Your inner strength blossoms into future achievements. That is beautifully relevant in this reading. Now let's read 35, Long Way Home. Journey, 9th house, remembrances, experiences, passage. Let's get a look at that. It says, look at this little elephant on his journey through the skies. He lives in a huge balloon and has his castle with him. Lights guide the way while he slowly passes over the horizon. How long is his journey, and when will it end? Will he drop anchor again or continue his travels? This card reflects how we pass through our lives. During our pilgrimage, we collect memories strong enough to fill a castle and light enough to buoy our voyage. Now, light enough, that's important because that connects to this 8 of Cups, where I'm telling you, you need to release some of these narratives because otherwise they weigh you down. And the other thing is too, like recognizing as this booklet said, like how long is his journey? We don't know. Right? And so I can tell there's a lot of impatience on your end. And look at even her arms. She's like, when will I bloom? And I feel like in a lot of ways there's this questioning of like, when will I bloom? And you might be waiting for blossoms, and you might not bloom with blossoms. There might be a different way that you bloom. But in any case, you are going to, and you have to trust. And in the meantime, you have to release some of these old narratives that are just weighing you down and making the journey slower, even slower than you are already impatient about. And then lastly, overall, I just want to summarize that the advice from Spirit for you is to really take a look at, if you feel like you're not receiving enough, take a look at what is it that you are offering in return. And does that match? Because I mean, I know that it's easy to say, oh, I give so much to the people I love. Absolutely. There are so many people out there that overgive, that give way too much. But in a lot of ways, a lot of those people overgive in ways that still keep them very safe without having to be vulnerable, right? And a lot of times we give to the wrong people. So it's important, especially again, if this is a business, the idea is, well, my business hasn't taken off. Okay, well, what are you putting into your offerings, but also what are you putting into, how are you being discovered, right? What is your discoverability? And so you have to take into account, if you just keep on doing the same thing that hasn't been working out so far, maybe we need to take a look at what we can change in order to get a better outcome. And that is really it's really necessary for you to take action on that with this leadership energy here. There's something that really requires you to be more open. And then the moment you do that, you're able to bloom. And the moment you release some of that narrative, you're able to bloom, because along with that Hermit, you've already done a lot of the internal work. It's just that you're closed off in some way. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Again, the advice is to give offerings that are genuine. You gotta give to receive. You only get what you give. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope it resonates. I hope it makes sense. I know that this was a lot, but sit with it for a while. Let me know how it made you feel, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.